Thank you for listening. I'm Cindy and I'm codependent. And if I start swatting at something, there is a gnat in here. And so if I slap myself in the face or something, it's just ignore me. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Let's see what kind of time we're looking at. Okay. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, as almost everybody else in the world did, except I had an alcoholic stepfather. I had a bipolar mother. My mother went through 7 stepfathers. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and I'm not going to get into the whole detail of it, but back about 30 years ago, I started trauma recovery with a counselor. I just totally had a meltdown after I had my 3rd child, and I could not deal with the trauma anymore. And so I started trauma recovery. And when I started that, what I did is made a timeline. And this is something that everybody can do. You can just start with the worst, most dramatic event that has happened in your life. I have complex PTSD, so I have several different severe traumatic experiences that I have experienced. And I just started by writing them down. And I had pages and pages. You can tape it on the wall and then take it down and hide it, whatever you want to do. But then you have to address each one of those traumatic incidents. And so let's just say I had one stepfather who made me sit at the back door, and he did target shooting around me. And so it was very drunk, and it was extremely dangerous, and I could have easily been shot and killed. And I don't know why he thought that was okay, but I have this experience, and I have to look at it like, can I forgive this person? Can I let this go? Will I be able to get to the point of talking about this experience without feeling it again? And that really is where I'm at now, because I've gone through so much trauma recovery that I can tell you pretty much everything in my past and not cry about it while I'm telling you. And I couldn't, there was a time when I could not do that. I couldn't even discuss it without crying. Now, in the last 3 or 4 years, I have suffered a new trauma, which has kicked me back into recovery. After 34 years, my husband became an alcoholic, and we got divorced. I have some betrayal trauma there. My kids are all grown up. And so all of a sudden, I have no person in the whole world who depends on me. And that's what I thrive on, is making sure that everybody else is okay. So I'm totally and completely by myself. And I've been trying to go through the recovery. That's how I started back in the 12 steps in January, was with a counselor who said, you're so codependent, you need to go through these 12 steps for codependence. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And I made a few notes so I wouldn't just ramble. I'm going to try to follow these. But I want to give you an example of a leaky roof. Let's say that my roof has damage and it is torn apart, and there's water coming in through the roof, and I put a bucket in the floor to catch the water. Okay, the leaky roof is the trauma. The bucket in the floor to catch the water, that is my coping mechanism. And so somebody could come in right now and say, you have got to quit using that coping mechanism. You've got to quit. And some of the coping mechanisms that I wrote down were like withdrawal, drinking, working, yelling. You've got to stop those things. You've got to stop. Well, what are you going to do if you pull that bucket out and throw it away? You've still got water pouring through the roof. You still have to cope. You still have to have some way. And so it's It's not better to remain an alcoholic. It's not better, but it is the way we cope. And so what we need to do is come up with ways that we can cope that are not destructive to ourselves until we can get the roof fixed. Until you can get the roof fixed, you have to cope. Now, the recovery, there's like 4 or 5 pages of recovery where it says, in codependence, I was like this, and in recovery, I'm like this. And that makes my heart sing, because I can hope that one day I will be able to say, in codependence, I was like this, and now I'm like this, and I don't have all the trauma, so I don't even need a bucket. I'm good. Another thing that we have to do is create new behaviors, because we have learned from our dysfunctional family ways to cope. And let's say my biggest thing is withdrawing. I can go and get away from everybody and just not speak to anybody and be alone and feel sorry for myself and all that. But I started using my P-Touch, and I wrote myself affirmations. So when I start getting down, this is what I do. I take the P-Touch, I write either a Bible verse or an affirmation or something like that. I stick it on my mirror, or I stick it on the window where I can see it. I read it, I write it, I say it, I think it, and I really try to focus on that rather than, you are so stupid. How could you make such a dumb mistake? Instead of telling myself that, I keep reading the affirmations over, which are positive. I'm not stupid, that, I am a loving person and people do love me and I am worthy of love. And so whatever the affirmation is. Another thing that I did is I came up with the rescue plan, because I also have panic disorder, anxiety disorders. I have PLMD, RLS, and all those ABC things. But I needed a rescue plan. Now, the thing that I came up with is, I wrote it out, and it says rescue, meds, food, dance, and sew. And what that means to me is, if I can't breathe and I feel overwhelmed and I feel suicidal and I feel like I can't make it, then all over my house, I have places where it says rescue. And on the rescue, it says meds, because a lot of times when that happens, I have forgotten to take my medicine, and I take antidepressants. And if I forget them for a day or two, then I do start getting down. So the first thing that I put, everybody's is different, but the first thing that I put on my rescue plan was meds. The second thing was food, because I quit eating when I'm depressed. I totally and completely just don't eat. I can go 3 or 4 days without eating a thing and don't even realize it, because I just don't eat. I don't know why. That's a coping mechanism. And then the third one is dance, which really is to move. I can turn on a line dancing thing or a song or anything. Just get up, move. Don't think about yourself. Sing a song. You can't think about yourself and feel sorry for yourself when you're singing Uptown Funk or something. You just can't. And then the last one that I put on my list is sew, because that's what I do. I quilt, I sew. And so for the long term, for a longer term rescue plan, I need to just get out my sewing and sit down and do some sewing. And that will give me an hour or 2 or 3 of just sitting and doing something that I enjoy and that I love. So if you're going to do a rescue plan, every person is different. You may not need medication. You may not need food. You may not need dance. You may need, oh, okay, I'm loving Annie's laughter. You may need laughter. You need to write on there, laughter. Breathe. On one I've had before, I wrote breathe, because I would stop, take deep breaths, breathe in the good, breathe out the bad. breathe in the good, breathe out the bad. But whatever that you put there, I personally struggle with suicidal tendencies. I struggle with severe anxiety and depression. And now that I am in recovery, and now that I'm back in recovery again, I don't have those anymore because I know what my coping mechanisms are. When I start feeling those ways, I run for help. I run and read my affirmations, or I open the cabinet door in the kitchen and it says rescue. And I follow the directions that I've given myself when I was not in crisis. I give myself directions when I'm not in crisis for what to do when I get in crisis. And I hope that, I mean, there's just so many more things that I could say, but I hope that that really will help someone to put in a crisis plan and be able to go forward with your recovery. I'm stepping it through. I did the step study and I've worked my way up to about 8 on the 12-step program. And I'm still pressing forward and praying and trusting my higher power and really being so thankful for all you guys, because if it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't even see anybody all week long. So thank you. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. I'm Cindy. I'm codependent, and I love this group.